For Paul Beshenivsky, the only question that mattered was when would they be arrested.
You're thinking, well, are they a step closer? Have they got these people? You know, it was getting to a point, well, are they going to find them? So I thought, well, I need to occupy my mind, I need to do something. So, you know, you really lock yourself away work-wise, and, you know, that sort of keeps your mind pacified till you come home. Then your kids asking you questions that you don't have answers to.
4 weeks into the inquiry, an anonymous tip-off brought progress. Gang leader Muzakkar Shah was hiding out in Newport, South Wales.
It came to our attention that in Newport Dock was a tanker that was about to sail in the next 48 hours to Pakistan. Our fear was that Shah had got to Newport and was a stowaway on this ship, ready to sail off into the sunset back to Pakistan, never to be seen by us again.
The ship was secretly held in port while the hunt for Shah continued.
Our inquiries had identified 3 or 4 houses where we believe Shah was. An armed cordon was put on the addresses, and then obviously it was knocking on the doors, loud hailers, getting all the occupants out.
Police didn't know whether Shah was still armed with the pistol and machine gun. But 24 hours into their search, he gave himself up. He'd shaved his head in an attempt to disguise his identity. He was immediately taken under armed escort to West Yorkshire for questioning.
The surviving police officer hears another loud bang. She says that she feels immense pain and she falls to the ground. And she says, I quote, "It was the Asian male who shot me." That's you, isn't it? No comment.
Like Yusuf Jama before him, Muzakkar Shah refused to answer any questions. But his fingerprints found on the laptop bag left inside the travel agents pointed to him, as did his DNA found on cigarette butts and a Ribena carton inside the RAV4. 3 days after Shah's arrest, police discovered a MAC-10 weapon and ammunition. Tests proved it was the same one fired by Shah's gang inside the travel agents. And on a plastic bag full of bullets were his fingerprints. Police charged Shah with Sharon's murder and the attempted murder of Teresa. For Teresa, it was comforting to know that the man who had killed her friend was now behind bars.
When that phone call came, it was a big relief that he had been arrested. To say that we'd got Shah in custody were an absolute relief, not just for me, but for my family, for the whole investigation team. Just ended rollercoaster, really.
6 weeks after the shooting, Sharon's funeral took place at Bradford Cathedral.
Once we'd sort of got to the funeral day, I don't know, your sort of heart races, and you know, you sort of try to think, well, how am I going to cope on this sort of day, and how are the kids going to cope?
It wasn't easy. I walked behind Sharon's coffin because I wanted to. I wanted to say goodbye to her respectfully. Every officer that lined the streets that day wanted to be there to give Sharon the send-off, the funeral she deserved.
Sharon's team carried her coffin. Among them was Matthew Scott.
The street was just silent. It was full of people, full of members of the public, but it was completely silent. It sort of gave me the impression that there's still a lot of respect for what it is that we do and the dangers that we face.
Sharon may have been laid to rest, but the hunt for her killers was not. One key suspect, Mustaf Jama, was still on the run. His image was sent around the world. Then police arrested 3 men linked to the Mercedes and Corolla cars seen on the CCTV. Police believed these men were the robbers' lookouts, but they were still unclear about how the gang had orchestrated their plan. A day later, they made another arrest, and this time they got the answers they were looking for. The handyman at this house would hold the key.
He became a very useful witness. He was actually doing work, handiwork, when he actually overhears this crew talking about doing a robbery. And there's a suggestion that there's many, many tens of thousands of pounds that are going to be available to them. He doesn't get involved in this in any way, shape or form. He's just purely doing his handiwork. But he does notice that they appear to be very excited. He can tell by the tone of the language that they're using.
The handyman was initially arrested as a suspect, but it soon became apparent he was a key witness. In this police video, he's seen taking officers around the house. He reveals in remarkable detail the gang's movements after the robbery.
So this is the room that you said they all came back into.
Everybody was in that room.
Right.
And there was one guy, the black guy, who was standing here.
Yeah.
When he saw me coming, closed the door. By the time when I was coming, I saw a gun in bed.
He is now under police protection and cannot be identified.
According to the witness, they obviously then became panicked. They were swearing. In fact, the 2 Jammer brothers and Shah eventually shaved their heads, obviously to change their appearance.
That's the over that we used to over the hair on the floor, yeah.
They changed the clothes. They took off the business suits and jackets and shirts.
You've asked us to open a wardrobe where there's some clothes. There's 3 suit jackets.
One of the Jammer brothers said to this witness, "Go and get some white spirit," and they went outside.
So this is where you saw one of the people burning some clothing and some shoes.
Shoes, clothes, long trousers.
So he describes how the men left the Mercedes with 2 occupants left initially. One of the Somalians left in the RAV4. Another one got taken to the railway station, and then 3 other people left in another car.
I've got to take hold of you now, and you can tell me.
We've got the complete picture now. We know where they all came, we know what they've done, and where they left.
With the help of this new information, police pieced together their case against the 5 gang members they'd caught. But there was one man missing. The hunt for Mustaf Jama was still on. But had he fled the country? And would they ever catch him? A year after police officer Sharon Beshanivsky was shot dead during an armed robbery in Bradford, 5 men stood trial for her murder at Newcastle Crown Court. For Sharon's husband, Paul, it was the first time he'd come face to face with his wife's killers.
I didn't feel anything really at all until it sort of went to court, and I could actually face them in court, you know, and sort of look at the faces and think, you know, well, you know, you shot my wife, mother to my kids, for what? For money.
Muzakkar Shah and Yusuf Jama were sentenced to life for Sharon's murder. After a legal debate, the charge against Shah for the attempted murder of her colleague Teresa Milburn was dropped during the trial.
I'll never forget. Shah stood there, sentenced to life, minimum of 35 years, and there were friends or family members behind us in the public area, and he just went. So proud of himself in killing someone.
2 of the gang's 3 lookouts were found guilty of manslaughter. They also received life sentences. A 3rd was convicted of robbery and sentenced to 8 years. With 5 of the gang behind bars, Teresa bravely returned to the beat in Bradford, and Paul tried to get on with raising his children. But both knew the story wasn't over. One of the key suspects, Mustaf Jama, was still on the run. He thought he was beyond reach. Detectives in West Yorkshire believed otherwise.
We had strong intelligence suggesting Mustaf Jama had left the UK and had actually returned to Somalia, and that was really disappointing because we tried really hard to find him whilst he was in the UK. He was the third one that had actually gone inside the travel agents. He was the one who had been involved in the robbery itself, and he was the one in the group who shot both officers.
After the murder, stories began circulating that Jama had escaped from the UK by using a woman's passport and disguising himself in a burqa. He then fled to the very country he claimed was too dangerous